On April 18, 2031, something impossible happened. Nobody on Earth could sleep anymore. At first, nobody noticed. People blamed stress, long work hours, phones, anxiety, and social media. Modern life already made millions of people feel exhausted every day, so when the first reports appeared online, nobody took them seriously. One person posted, "I haven't slept in 30 hours." Another replied, "Same." Then thousands of people said the same thing. Then millions. By the second night, hospitals started receiving unusual patients. People arrived shaking violently. Some could barely speak. Others stared blankly at walls for hours without blinking. Doctors prescribed sleeping pills, but nothing happened. Stronger medication failed too. Sedatives failed. Even anesthesia stopped working properly. Patients remained awake through surgery. Nobody understood how that was possible. Scientists initially believed it was some kind of neurological event. Maybe a virus. Maybe mass hysteria. But nothing explained why it was happening simultaneously across the entire world. And the strangest part was this. People still felt tired. Their bodies were exhausted. Their eyes burned. Their muscles weakened. But the moment they tried to sleep, their minds simply stayed awake, as if the human brain had forgotten how to shut down. By day 3, panic spread globally. Social media became almost unbearable to watch. Videos showed exhausted people crying into cameras at 4 in the morning. Parents sat beside children who hadn't slept in days. Live streams appeared from every country imaginable. Millions of people stayed online together through endless nights that no longer seemed to end. Entire apartment buildings remained illuminated until sunrise. Cities looked wrong. At 2 a.m., traffic still moved through downtown streets. Fast food restaurants stayed crowded. Grocery stores remained open because nobody needed to go home and sleep anymore. The world had quietly lost one of its oldest human routines. And nobody knew how to stop it. Then came the hallucinations. At first, they were small. People noticed movement in empty rooms. Dark shapes standing at the ends of hallways. Some claimed mirrors reflected figures that disappeared the moment they looked directly at them. Doctors assumed it was simple sleep deprivation. Until millions of people began describing the exact same things. A woman in Brazil described hearing whispers coming from inside her ceiling every night at exactly 3:14 a.m. A teenager in Germany posted online that he kept seeing someone standing outside his bedroom door, even though he lived alone. In Tokyo, an exhausted train operator claimed every passenger on his train suddenly stopped moving and stared directly at him for nearly 30 seconds without speaking. The footage was later uploaded online. Nobody could explain it. By day 5, society began to fracture. Drivers crashed into empty intersections after hallucinating people in the road. Air traffic controllers reported hearing voices hidden inside radio communication signals. Hospitals became overcrowded with patients suffering complete psychological breakdowns. Schools shut down first. Then offices. Then airports. Governments urged people to remain calm, but world leaders themselves had not slept either. During one emergency broadcast, a president suddenly stopped speaking in the middle of a sentence and stared silently into the camera for almost an entire minute before aides cut the feed. The clip spread everywhere online. People began realizing something terrifying. Human civilization depended on sleep far more than anyone had ever understood. Without sleep, emotions changed. People became slower, colder, and less reactive. Arguments disappeared. But so did laughter. Families stopped talking during dinner. Children stopped playing. The world didn't collapse violently. It simply became quieter. Then the internet discovered a theory. A programmer from South Korea uploaded a message to a small technology forum before disappearing completely. His account had never posted anything before. The message contained only one sentence. The signal was never supposed to leave the system. At first, people mocked him. Conspiracy theories already flooded every corner of the internet. Some blamed artificial intelligence. Others blamed satellites, experimental frequencies, secret government projects, neural implants, and biological weapons. But then something strange happened. During a major internet outage in Northern Europe, thousands of people suddenly fell asleep for several minutes. Only a few minutes. But it was enough to terrify governments worldwide. Emergency meetings began immediately. Scientists noticed the same pattern repeatedly. Areas disconnected from global networks experienced temporary sleep recovery. Entire cities were shut off from communication systems. Massive blackouts spread across the world as governments desperately attempted to stop whatever signal people believed was affecting the human brain. Data centers were destroyed. Satellites were disabled. Communication towers collapsed overnight. But nothing worked. Because by then, humanity had already changed. By day 8, hallucinations became part of everyday life. People reported hearing conversations coming from inside walls. Others claimed strangers sometimes repeated their thoughts aloud before they spoke them. Millions became obsessed with staring at screens for hours without moving. Entire crowds stood silently in public spaces as if waiting for instructions nobody else could hear. And somehow, people were becoming less afraid. That was the part scientists found most disturbing. The human brain appeared to be adapting to sleeplessness. Exhaustion slowly faded. Pain faded too. People no longer felt truly tired. It was as if the body itself had begun evolving into something new. By day 12, the global economy collapsed completely. Not because of war. Not because of disease. But because human beings no longer behaved normally enough to maintain society. Factories continued operating without pause, yet creativity disappeared. Musicians stopped writing songs. Artists abandoned unfinished work. Film studios shut down because nobody could create original ideas anymore. Dreams had vanished. And with them, imagination itself seemed to fade. One psychologist described it perfectly during an interview shortly before disappearing from public life. He said, "Humanity is becoming efficient, but emotionally empty." People remembered facts. They remembered routines. But they no longer wondered about things. Nobody daydreamed anymore. Nobody stared at clouds. Nobody imagined impossible futures before falling asleep at night, because night itself had lost meaning. Months later, children born during the event showed almost no biological need for sleep at all. Doctors monitored them carefully. The children learned faster than normal. Reacted faster than normal. Their minds processed information constantly without fatigue. But there was something unsettling about them. They rarely laughed. Rarely cried. Rarely showed fear. One nurse claimed an infant stared directly at her for nearly 10 minutes without blinking once. Eventually, beds slowly disappeared from homes around the world. Entire apartment complexes redesigned bedrooms into workspaces and entertainment rooms. 24-hour cities became permanent. Artificial lighting replaced natural schedules entirely. Humanity no longer rested. The world became unbelievably productive. Governments celebrated what they called the end of biological limitation. But older generations remembered something younger people never experienced. Dreaming. The ability to escape reality for a few hours every night. The ability to imagine impossible things. The ability to feel human in silence. One scientist recorded a final message before vanishing from the internet forever. His face looked exhausted, older, hollow. He stared into the camera for several seconds before speaking. Then he said, "Maybe sleep was never a weakness. Maybe dreams were the last thing protecting humanity from becoming machines." After that, the recording ended. No explanation. No goodbye. Just silence. And maybe that's what terrified people most in the end. Not the hallucinations. Not the collapse of society. Not even the endless waking. But the realization that humanity had survived. The world did not end. People adapted. Civilization continued. But something invisible disappeared forever. Something impossible to measure. Something deeply human. And maybe one day, humanity really will defeat sleep completely. Maybe future generations will see dreams as primitive biological errors. But if that happens, we may never realize what we lost until the final dream quietly disappears from the human mind forever.